You know that loud mechanical groan outside your window early in the morning? You watch this massive vehicle effortlessly hoist a giant dumpster into the air, and let's be honest, most of us just see a noisy trash hauler disrupting our commute. But what if I told you that the everyday utility vehicle rumbling outside your house right now is actually this hidden marvel of engineering and a fascinating study in global trade? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to completely rethink the humble garbage truck. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the anatomy of a garbage truck. 2, a fleet for every street. 3, specs that really matter. 4, the bottom line on pricing. And finally, global sourcing and procurement. Let's get right into it. Section 1, Anatomy of a Garbage Truck, the beating heart of the machine. So to really understand these beasts, you gotta know about the PTO, or the power takeoff system. Think of the PTO as the literal beating heart of the truck. This is the core system that intercepts power generated by that massive diesel engine and redirects it straight into the main hydraulic pump. This magic all happens the second the driver shifts the transmission into a specific collection gear or into neutral. Boom, the truck's heavy lifting capabilities come to life. What's truly wild here is the sheer force we're dealing with. Once that PTO engages the pump, high-pressure hydraulic fluid absolutely floods the vehicle's cylinders. We are talking about pressures frequently topping 2,500 pounds per square inch. That is a relentless amount of hydraulic pressure, but you absolutely need that kind of muscle to crush the literal tons of refuse a city produces every single day. And here's how that 2,500 psi actually gets to work. It's a neat 3-step hydraulic sequence we call the sweep and slide. First, a sweep blade violently scoops the trash right out of the rear hopper. Second, a slide mechanism forces all that material deep into the truck's main structural body. And finally, an internal ejector panel pushes back with steady, heavy counterpressure to literally crush the waste. The big takeaway here? Maximizing payload volume through extreme compaction means way fewer trips to the landfill, which directly slashes a municipality's daily fuel and labor costs. Brilliant, right? Moving on to Section 2, a fleet for every street, matching the machine to the mission. Out in the wild, you're going to encounter a few different species of these trucks. Rear loaders, those are your industry standard for dense, mixed residential routes. They pack a high 6-to-1 compaction ratio, but need a driver plus a couple of loaders hanging off the back to handle bulky household waste. But check out the automated side loader, or ASL. These are game changers for suburban curbsides because they only need one operator. A single driver uses a joystick right in the cab to run a robotic arm capable of lifting 500 pounds per cycle. Then, of course, you've got massive front loaders for commercial, concrete-heavy zones and roll-off hook-lift trucks that basically swap out giant open-top bins for heavy construction debris. But what happens when the debris is just way too odd or too large to be compacted? Enter the grapple truck. These are absolutely the unsung heroes of the fleet, featuring a super robust hydraulic boom tipped with a massive claw. They are totally essential for clearing out fallen tree branches after a storm or hauling away that oversized furniture left on the curb. They just scoop it all up and drop it into an open dump body. Problem solved. All right, Section 3, specs that really matter: chassis, steel, and cycle times. It all starts with the drive type. If you've got a 4x2 chassis configuration, you've got a nimble, lightweight setup. This is perfect for squeezing a 5 to 10 cubic meter body down incredibly tight city alleys. Contrast that with a 6x4 or an 8x4 setup. These multi-axle configurations are brutal, heavy-duty machines carrying massive 15 to 25 cubic meter bodies. They give you the absolute maximum traction and payload distribution you demand when you're navigating unpaved, heavy landfill environments. Now, think about what garbage actually is for a second. It's wet, it's rotting, and honestly, it's highly acidic. If a manufacturer builds the hopper floor out of standard mild steel, it's going to degrade and rust out incredibly fast. So premium manufacturers literally have to use high-tensile, wear-resistant steel grades. We're talking Q345, Q690, or NM450. Without that premium steel, the vehicle simply won't survive its expected life cycle out there on the routes. 15 to 20. That is the exact number of seconds a standard hydraulic compaction cycle should take. Why is this specific metric so crucial? Because an efficient 15 to 20 second cycle time isn't just a fancy spec on a buyer sheet, it's literally the difference between city traffic flowing nicely and an entire neighborhood getting totally jammed up behind a slow cycling truck. Faster cycles mean less engine idling and far better daily route completion rates. Section 4, the bottom line on pricing. What drives the cost in 2026? Let's talk money, because the financial stakes in municipal procurement are massive. A light-duty 5 to 8 cubic meter rear loader is going to run you around $30,000. Step it up to a mid-sized 10 to 15 cubic meter packer, and you're looking at an average of 55 grand. But if you need a heavy-duty commercial front loader or a massive hook lift system, wow, those can easily soar past $80,000 a pop depending on the configuration. So where exactly is all that money going? Well, a whopping 60% of the final price tag is eaten up by the base commercial chassis alone. That's the frame and the engine from big brands like Dongfeng, Sinotruk, Photon, or Isuzu. The other 40%? That pays for the complex superstructure and all those hydraulic crushing systems we were nerding out over earlier. Now here's where smart buyers actually make their money back. Sure, you can save some cash up front buying cheap hydraulics, but the origin of those parts heavily impacts reliability. Good procurement teams will gladly pay a premium for imported proportional valves and multi-stage cylinders. Why? Because investing in top-tier components on day one drastically minimizes future maintenance downtime. A cheaper truck that constantly breaks down mid-route ends up costing a city an absolute fortune in delays and repairs. Finally, Section 5. Global Sourcing and Procurement Rapid-Fire Insider Secrets. Let's kick off a quick Q&A here. Say you just signed a purchase order for a fleet of sanitation vehicles. What is the actual timeline for getting one of these giants built and rolling on the street? Well, the standard manufacturing lead time is surprisingly fast, usually 30 to 45 days after your deposit clears. But actually, if your fleet requires customized heavy-duty bodies, really specific imported hydraulics, or maybe right-hand drive mods for your specific country, you'll want to expect that production time to stretch by up to 2 extra weeks. Next question. Since we're talking about massive $80,000 machines, do you have to be a gigantic city placing an order for 50 trucks at a time to get a manufacturer's attention? Is there a minimum order quantity? Honestly, you might be surprised. Most heavy special vehicle manufacturers accept a minimum order quantity of exactly 1 unit. You can literally just buy one. That said, municipal fleets typically aim for orders of 5 or more units. Why? Because that unlocks crucial volume discounts and optimized shipping rates, since they can just be driven onto massive roll-on/roll-off or ro-ro cargo vessels together. And this builds into our final B2B buying tips. When fleets use these global export platforms, they aren't just pointing and clicking. They get to dictate the exact internationally recognized hydraulic pump brands they want installed, ensuring they can source replacement parts locally. They control engine setups, demanding anything from standard Euro 2 up to super strict Euro 6 emissions compliance. And the best part? They guarantee the build quality by hiring independent third-party inspection agencies like SGS to verify every single bolt and weld before the truck ever leaves the factory floor. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Tomorrow morning, when you hear the groan of a garbage truck outside lifting bins into the air, what are you going to see? Just a noisy trash hauler? Or will you see an $80,000 feat of high-pressure engineering, wear-resistant steel, and global supply chain logistics working flawlessly to keep your city moving? I really hope this explainer gave you a brand new appreciation for the heavy machinery hiding right outside your window. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep learning, keep looking closer at the world around you, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.